Admiral Kextar stood before the great window of the council station, watching another star die. The light faded slowly, like a candle being snuffed out by an invisible hand. In 3 days, that star system would be empty. Nothing but cold space where billions of lives once lived. "Another one gone," whispered Counselor Veltash from behind him. Her 4 arms trembled as she spoke. The Void Swarm moves faster now. They consumed the Altair system in just 6 hours. Kextar turned his massive head toward the assembly hall. Inside, representatives from 1,000 worlds sat in desperate silence. They had tried everything. Their best weapons could not touch the void entities. Their strongest shields lasted minutes against the swarm's hunger. The creatures ate energy itself, growing stronger with every star they devoured. "We have one option left," announced Prime Counselor Zevran, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The archives speak of a world called Kepler 442c, a Class 15 Deathworld." A wave of fear rippled through the assembly. Class 15 worlds were forbidden. Even the bravest species avoided them. These planets killed everything that landed on them within hours. "The old records tell strange stories about this world," Zethran continued. "They call it the source of the whispers of hope. Signals came from that planet long ago. Before it went silent, our ancestors believed something powerful lived there, something that could save us all." Counselor Veltash stood up, her voice shaking. "Prime Counselor, no species has ever survived a Class 15 world. We sent our best warriors to Class 12 planets, and they died in minutes. This is suicide. Then we need a species that does not know it should die." Kextar said quietly. All eyes turned to him. "We need the humans." The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Humans were new to the galaxy. They came from a small blue world that the Council classified as only Class 12. Most species saw them as primitive. They used crude technology and solved problems with strange methods that made no sense to civilized minds. The humans? Veltash's voice rose high. They barely understand basic energy manipulation. Their ships are held together with metal bolts and hope. How could they survive where our greatest champions failed? Kextar had studied the human files carefully. He remembered the reports from First Contact. Human explorers had landed on Zirian Prime during a Category 5 ion storm. The storm should have killed them instantly. Instead, they fixed their damaged ship using spare parts and tree branches. Tree branches on a planet where no trees should grow. "Because they do not follow our rules," Kextar replied. "When we see impossible, they see Tuesday. When we calculate failure, they find new ways to try." The debate raged for hours. Some counselors called it madness. Others said it was their only hope. In the end, desperation won. The vote was close, but it passed. 3 days later, a human delegation arrived at the council station. Captain Maria Santos led the group. She was a small woman with dark hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. Behind her came Dr. James Wright, their head scientist, and Colonel Mike Chun, their military commander. "You want us to go where?" Captain Santos asked after hearing the proposal. She sat in the council chamber, looking tiny compared to the massive alien representatives around her. "A Class 15 death world," Prime Counselor Zethran explained. "We know it sounds dangerous." Dr. Wright laughed, a sound that made several counselors jump. "Dangerous? My friend, we come from a planet where the weather tries to kill us every day. We have storms that can level cities and animals that hunt us for sport. Dangerous is what we call breakfast." Colonel Chin studied the data files on his tablet. "What kind of hostile conditions are we talking about? Radiation? Toxic atmosphere? Extreme gravity? All of those and more." Veltash said, "The gravity is 12 times your world's normal pull. The atmosphere contains acids that dissolve most known materials. Electromagnetic storms disable all advanced technology. The temperature swings from burning hot to freezing cold every few hours." Captain Santos nodded slowly. "Sounds like camping in Alaska during hurricane season. We can work with this." The alien stared at her in amazement. Every other species had fled in terror at the description. The humans were taking notes. "We will need 3 ships," Captain Santos continued. one military vessel for security, one science ship for research, one colony transport for the civilians who want to try living there. Civilians? Kextar could not hide his shock. You would bring non-military personnel to a Class 15 Deathworld? Sure, Captain Santos shrugged. Some of our best explorers are farmers and teachers. They see things soldiers and scientists miss. Besides, if this place is supposed to save the galaxy, we need different kind of minds looking at it. Within a week, the human fleet was ready. The Council provided their best technology. Energy shields that could protect against solar flares. Atmospheric processors that could make poison air breathable. Gravity adjusters that could reduce crushing weight to manageable levels. The humans accepted the gifts politely, then immediately began modifying everything. They added manual backup systems to the automated controls. They built redundant power sources using their own primitive fusion reactors. They packed extra supplies of duct tape, wire, and something they called coffee. Why do they change everything we give them? Veltash asked Admiral Kextar as they watched the human ships prepare for departure. Because they do not trust technology to save them, Kextar replied, they trust themselves. Watch how they work together. Every human knows how to fix, fight, and think. They do not specialize like we do. They adapt. On the day of departure, thousands of alien representatives gathered to watch. Many came to witness what they believed would be a noble sacrifice. Others hoped to see a miracle. Captain Santos gave a brief speech over the communication channels. We know you think we're going to die. Maybe we will. But maybe we will find something amazing. Maybe we will find hope. That is what humans do. We look for hope in impossible places. The 3 human ships disappeared into hyperspace, heading toward Kepler 442c. The galaxy held its breath and waited. Every species had lost someone to death worlds. Every civilization had stories of brave explorers who never returned. But humans were different. They came from a world that tested them every day. They learned to survive by working together, by never giving up, by finding solutions where others saw only problems. As the void swarm continued to devour star systems, moving closer to hard galactic civilization, the Council could only hope that their desperate gamble would pay off. They had sent their last hope to a world that killed everything. They had sent humans to find the whispers of hope. The first thing that killed Private Jackson was the gravity. As soon as a military transport broke through Kepler 442c's atmosphere, the crushing weight slammed him into the floor. His bones snapped like dry wood. He died before the medics could reach him. The second thing that killed Sergeant Torres was the acid rain. Her helmet visor dissolved in 30 seconds. The burning liquid ate through her face mask and into her lungs. She died choking on her own blood. By the end of the first hour, Colonel Chen had lost half his soldiers. The survivors huddled in the twisted wreckage of their landing craft, watching their equipment melt around them. "Sir, the gravity compensators are offline," reported Corporal Williams. His voice shook as he watched his rifle barrel bend under its own weight. "The atmospheric scrubbers are failing. We have maybe 6 hours of breathable air left." Colonel Chen studied the readings on his cracked tablet. Gravity was 14 times Earth normal, not 12 like the aliens had calculated. The atmosphere was not just acidic, it was actively aggressive. The very air seemed to hate them. "What about the emergency shelters?" he asked. "Dissolved, sir. The support beams couldn't handle the weight anyway." 3 kilometers away, the science ship had its own problems. Dr. Wright watched his million-credit alien laboratory equipment turn into expensive scrap metal. The quantum analyzers sparked and died. The bioscanners melted into puddles of exotic metals. "This is impossible," muttered Dr. Lisa Park, his assistant. She held up a data tablet that was literally bending in half. "How can gravity be this strong? The planet should collapse into a black hole." The electromagnetic storms made everything worse. Every few minutes, waves of energy swept across the landscape. The storms fried circuits and scrambled computer cores. The advanced alien technology was useless in minutes. But the humans adapted. In the wreckage of the military camp, Corporal Williams found a broken atmospheric processor. He could not fix the complex alien circuits, but he understood the basic principle. Air went in dirty, came out clean. "Hand me that vent pipe," he told another soldier. "And find me some of that emergency tape." "The vent pipe weighs 300 pounds now," the soldier replied. "Then we drag it. Come on." They built a crude air filter using pieces of the landing craft. It was ugly and loud, but it worked. The device used mechanical filters instead of energy fields. Gravity could not break what was already solid. Dr. Wright's team faced different challenges. Their instruments were dead, but their minds still worked. Dr. Park studied the landscape through the thick windows of their shelter. "Look at those rock formations," she said. "They should not exist. The gravity should crush them flat." "Unless they are not normal rocks," Dr. Wright replied. He picked up a chunk of local stone that had fallen through their damaged roof. The rock was incredibly dense, but it felt warm to the touch. "This material has properties we do not understand." The colony ship landed last, and it landed hard. Captain Santos felt her teeth rattle as the vessel hit the ground like a falling mountain. Warning lights flashed red across every display. "Hull breach in sections 4 through 7, called out Engineer Rodriguez. Life support is failing. We are losing atmosphere fast." But the colonists were not soldiers or scientists. They were farmers, teachers, mechanics, and shop owners. They looked at problems differently. "We need to patch those holes," said Beth Morrison, a farmer from Kansas. "Anyone got some plastic sheeting?" "The alien repair kits are melting," Rodriguez replied. "Forget the alien stuff. What do we have that is basic? Really basic?" They used tarps from the cargo bay. They sealed cracks with mud mixed with synthetic polymer paste from the food printers. When the gravity crushed their support beams, they built new ones from compressed salvage materials. It was not pretty, but it held. The electromagnetic storms hit every 6 hours like clockwork. Each wave fried whatever electronics the humans managed to repair. But after the third storm, something interesting happened. Corporal Williams noticed it first. "Sir, that tree over there. It was not glowing before." Colonel Chin looked where the soldier pointed. A twisted alien tree pulsed with soft blue light. Every time the electromagnetic storms passed, the glow grew brighter. "The plants are absorbing the energy," Dr. Park realized when she heard the report. "They are not being damaged by the storms. They are feeding on them." This gave the humans ideas. Bad ideas by alien standards, but the kind of ideas that kept humans alive on their own dangerous world. Engineer Rodriguez took apart a damaged power cell and wired it to one of the glowing plants. The next electromagnetic storm charged the cell completely. "Infinite power source," he grinned. The aliens would never think to use living plants as batteries. The humans started watching everything more carefully. They noticed patterns that their sophisticated instruments had missed. The acid rain fell in cycles. The gravity fluctuated slightly with the planet's rotation. The atmospheric pressure changed with the weather. "This world has rules," Captain Santos realized during a video call between the three groups. "Harsh rules, but still rules. We just need to learn them." "The aliens tried to fight the planet," Colonel Chin added. "They brought technology to protect them from everything. When the technology failed, they died. But we are used to living with danger," Dr. Wright said. "We learn to work with it, not against it." The breakthrough came on the 4th day. Dr. Park was studying soil samples when she noticed something impossible. The dirt was arranged in patterns, tiny geometric shapes that repeated across the landscape. "This is not natural," she told Dr. Wright. "Someone or something made these patterns." They followed the patterns like a map. The shapes led to a small hill that looked normal from the outside. But when they dug into it, they found metal. Old metal that did not dissolve in the acid rain. "There are structures under here," Dr. Park whispered. "Artificial structures." The discovery changed everything. The planet was not just hostile by accident. Something had lived here. Something had built things. Something that could survive in conditions that killed every other species in the galaxy. Captain Santos gathered teams from all three groups. They worked together to excavate the site. The military provided security. The scientists analyzed what they found. The colonists figured out how to dig in crushing gravity using improvised tools. What they uncovered made no sense. The buried structures were massive, but they were built from materials that should not exist. Metals that were stronger than anything in the galactic database. Energy conduits that still hummed with power after thousands of years. And everywhere, carved into the walls and floors, were symbols. Strange markings that seemed to shift and change when no one was looking directly at them. Whatever lived here was incredibly advanced, Dr. Wright said as he studied the symbols. More advanced than the council species. Maybe more advanced than anyone in the galaxy. Then why did they leave? Captain Santos asked. Maybe they did not leave, Corporal Williams suggested quietly. Maybe they are still here, just changed somehow. That night, as the humans worked to expand their excavation, strange things began to happen. Tools worked better than they should. Broken equipment started functioning again. The hostile environment seemed slightly less hostile. And in the distance, carried on the acid winds, some of the humans swore they could hear something. Not quite voices, but something that sounded almost like whispers. Whispers that might have been saying, "Welcome." Dr. Sarah Chun had always been good at puzzles. As a child, she solved jigsaw puzzles while other kids played games. In college, she learned 12 ancient languages just for fun. Now, standing in the buried chamber beneath Kepler, for a 42C surface, she faced the biggest puzzle of her life. The symbols on the walls moved, not like video displays or holograms. They moved like living things, shifting and flowing when she was not looking directly at them. When she tried to record them with her camera, the device showed only blank stone. "This makes no sense," she muttered, tracing one symbol with her finger. The moment she touched it, the marking glowed soft gold. Other symbols around the room began to pulse in response. "Dr. Chun," called Engineer Rodriguez from across the chamber. "You need to see this." She walked over to where he stood beside a strange pillar. The structure was made of the same impossible metal as the walls, but hummed with energy. Rodriguez had connected one of their jury-rigged power cells to base. "Watch," he said, and touched a panel on the pillar's side. The entire room filled with light. Not harsh electric light, but something warm and alive. The symbols on the walls stopped moving and settled into clear, readable patterns. The air itself seemed to sing with quiet music. "How long has this thing been waiting for power?" Dr. Chen asked. "That is the weird part," Rodriguez replied. "It already had power. Lots of power. I think it was waiting for something else. Something like us." Above ground, the 3 human settlements were changing in ways no one expected. Captain Santos walked to the colony camp and noticed things that should not be possible. Plants that had been dying yesterday were now healthy and green. Broken equipment was working again. The crushing gravity felt lighter. "Beth, come look at this," she called to the farmer from Kansas. Beth Morrison was examining her vegetable garden, scratching her head in confusion. "Captain, these tomato plants were dead this morning. Now look at them." The plants were not just alive. They were thriving. Tomatoes the size of melons hung from vines that seemed to glow with inner light. The soil around them was rich and dark, nothing like the acidic dirt they had planted in 3 days ago. "The seeds are changing too," Beck continued. "I planted earth seeds, but these are growing into something new, something better." At the military camp, Colonel Chun was dealing with his own mysteries. Weapons that had been twisted by gravity were now straight and functional. Broken armor was somehow repaired. Even more strange, his soldiers were feeling stronger. "Sir, I can lift things I could not move yesterday," reported Corporal Williams, "and the gravity does not hurt as much." "Show me," the colonel ordered. Williams picked up a piece of wreckage that should have weighed 600 pounds in the planet's crushing gravity. He lifted it easily over his head. "This is impossible," Colonel Chin said. "You should not be able to do that." "Maybe the planet is getting used to us," Williams suggested. "Like it is learning to work with humans instead of against us." In the buried chamber, Dr. Chen was making her own discoveries. She had found a room filled with what looked like books, but they were made of the same strange metal as everything else. When she touched them, words appeared in her mind. Not English words, but concepts she could somehow understand. The beings who built this place called themselves the architects. They had lived here for millions of years, watching the galaxy grow and change. They were gardeners of hope, planting seeds of possibility on thousands of worlds. But something had gone wrong. A darkness had come to the galaxy, eating light and life wherever it went. The architects had seen their garden worlds consumed one by one. In the end, they made a choice. They did not die, Dr. Chen whispered as the knowledge flowed into her mind. They became part of the planet. They turned themselves into something that could wait, something that could test whoever came looking for help. She understood now why Kepler 442c was so hostile. It was not trying to kill visitors. It was testing them. The crushing gravity, the acid rain, the electromagnetic storms. They were all challenges designed to find a species that would not give up. Most species brought technology to protect themselves. When the technology failed, they died. But humans were different. Humans adapted. Humans found ways to work with problems instead of just hiding from them. The planet had been testing them, and they had passed. Dr. Chen touched another book metal page. More knowledge flowed into her mind. The architect had left instructions, a guide for whoever proved worthy of their gift. But the instructions were not written in words or symbols. They were written in feelings and ideas that spoke directly to the human heart. Hope, determination, the refusal to give up even when everything seemed impossible. These were the tools the architects had used to plant life throughout the galaxy. These were the tools they now offered to humanity. Above ground, the changes were accelerating. The 3 human settlements were growing closer together, connected by paths that seemed to build themselves. The hostile storms were becoming less frequent. The acid rain was turning into normal water. Captain Santos received a radio call from Dr. Chun in the underground chamber. "Captain, you need to bring everyone down here." Dr. Chen's voice was excited and frightened at the same time. "All of them. Military, science, civilian. Everyone needs to see this." "What did you find, Doctor?" "I found why we are here. I found what the whispers of hope really are. And, Captain, I think something is coming. Something that has been waiting for us to be ready." As if her words had triggered a response, the sky above Kepler 442c began to change. The thick clouds that had covered the planet for days started to clear. For the first time since landing, the humans could see the stars. But the stars were wrong. Some of them were moving. Some of them were going out. "The void swarm," Colonel Chin said quietly, watching through his binoculars. "They found us." In the underground chamber, ancient systems that had slept for millennia began to wake up. The walls hummed with increasing energy. The symbols on every surface blazed with brilliant light. The knowledge books opened themselves, their pages fluttering though there was no wind. Dr. Chun felt something vast and patient turning its attention toward the surface. The architects were not gone. They had been waiting, sleeping in the planet's heart, dreaming of the day when the right species would arrive. The humans had proven themselves through suffering and adaptation. They had shown the determination to survive what should have killed them. They had demonstrated the ability to work together and find hope in impossible places. Now the real test would begin. "Captain," Dr. Chen called over the radio, her voice barely audible over the growing hum of awakening machinery. "Bring everyone down here now. The planet is waking up, and I think it wants to teach us something. Something we are going to need very soon." Outside, the moving stars grew larger. The void swarm had found their little world, drawn by the increasing energy signatures from the ancient ruins. But this time would be different. This time, the planet would not be defenseless. This time, the whispers of hope had found voices to carry them. Human voices that refused to be silenced, no matter how dark the galaxy became. The underground chamber had become something beyond human understanding. Every surface glowed with living light. The air itself pulsed with energy that made the hair on everyone's arms stand up. 200 humans stood in the vast space, watching walls covered in symbols that moved like flowing water. Dr. Saracen stood at the center of it all, her hands pressed against a pillar that hummed with ancient power. Knowledge flowed through her mind in waves, not words or pictures, but pure understanding that bypassed her normal thoughts and spoke directly to her soul. "I can see it all," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. The whole galaxy, the way it used to be before the darkness came. Captain Santos moved closer, worried about her friend. "Sarah, what are you seeing?" "Gardens," Dr. Chen replied, her voice distant and wondering. "Worlds covered in life and hope." The architects spent millions of years planting seeds of possibility on every planet they could reach. They made the galaxy bloom with different kinds of life, different ways of thinking and growing. The pillar under her hands grew brighter. Around the chamber, other pillars began to activate. The humans watched in amazement as the room transformed into something that looked like a three-dimensional map of space. Stars and planets hung in the air like glowing jewels. "Then they came," Dr. Chen continued, her voice growing sad. "The entities we call the Void Swarm. But they were not always destroyers. They were once a species like any other. They lived on worlds near the galaxy's edge. The star map changed, showing the rim of the galaxy growing dark. Black tendrils reached inward, consuming light wherever they touched. Something happened to them. Something terrible. They lost hope. They forgot how to create and could only destroy. They became hunger without purpose, emptiness that devoured everything good in the universe." Colonel Chen stepped forward, his military mind focusing on the threat. "How do we fight them? The Council's weapons don't work. Their shields are useless." "Because we have been fighting the wrong battle," Dr. Chen replied. The knowledge flowing through her was vast and overwhelming, but she tried to put it into words her friends could understand. "The void entities are not evil. They are sick. They are a species that forgot how to hope." Engineer Rodriguez was studying the glowing walls around them. "But this place, these machines, they were built to stop the Void Swarm, right?" "Not stop." Dr. Chen shook her head. "Heal." The chamber shook suddenly. Dust fell from the ceiling as something massive moved overhead. Through the ancient communication systems, they could hear the sounds of space battle far above them. The Void Swarm had arrived and was attacking the human ships in orbit. "We have to get up there," Colonel Chen said, reaching for his radio. "Our people need help." "No," Dr. Chen said firmly, her hand still on the pillar. "This is where we need to be. This is what we were brought here to do." The architects chose humans for a reason. The star map around them shifted again, showing the current battle in space. Void entities swarmed around the three human ships like angry wasps. But something was different this time. The ships were not being destroyed immediately. "Look," Captain Santos pointed at the display. "Our ships are lasting longer than they should." It was true. The human vessels should have been consumed in minutes, just like every other fleet that had faced a Void Swarm. Instead, they were fighting back. Their weapons were somehow hurting entities that no other technology could touch. The planet is helping them, Dr. Chen realized. The changes that happened to us, to our equipment, they are connected to our ships too. The architects are channeling their power through human technology. But the battle was still hopeless. 3 ships against thousands of void entities could only end one way. The humans in the chamber watched their friends and families fight a losing battle in the cold of space. "There has to be something we can do," Beth Morrison said. The farmer's voice was steady, but her hands shook as she watched the display. "We did not come this far just to watch everyone die." Dr. Chen closed her eyes and let more knowledge flow through her. The pillar under her hands was warm, almost alive. It pulsed with the heartbeat of an entire world that had chosen to trust humanity with its greatest secret. "The architects became one with this planet, so they could wait," she said slowly. "They turned themselves into pure hope, pure possibility. They have been sleeping in the planet's core for millions of years, dreaming of the day when the right species would find them." "And that species is us?" Captain Santos asked. "Not just us. We are the key that unlocks their gift. But the gift is not just for humans. It is for everyone. Every species in the galaxy that still has hope." The chamber around them began to change again. The walls faded away, replaced by something that looked like the inside of a living heart. Pathways of light stretched out in all directions, connecting to every part of the planet and beyond. The architects did not just become one with Kepler, 442c. Dr. Chen continued, understanding flooding through her. They became one with the concept of hope itself. They scattered their essence across the galaxy, hiding in the hearts of every species that refused to give up. Above them, the battle in space was reaching its climax. The human ships were damaged and running out of power. The void entities circled like predators, preparing for the final attack. But hope needs voices to carry it, Dr. Chen said, looking around at her fellow humans. It needs people who will stand up and say, no, we will not surrender, even when everything seems lost. She pressed both hands against the pillar and felt something vast respond to her touch. Not just a planet, but something much larger. A network of sleeping power that connected every world where hope still lived. The whispers of hope are not just sounds, she realized. They are calls to action. They are invitations to become part of something greater. The other humans in the chamber felt it too, a presence that was ancient and patient and infinitely kind. It spoke to them not in words, but in feelings. It showed them not what they should do, but what they could become. One by one, they stepped forward and placed their hands on the glowing walls. Each touch sent ripples of light through the chamber. Each human added their voice to a song that had been silent for too long. Beth Morrison thought of her gardens and how life always found a way to grow. Colonel Chun thought of his soldiers and their refusal to abandon each other. Engineer Rodriguez thought of broken things made whole again. Captain Santos thought of exploration and the courage to seek new worlds. All around the chamber, humans shared their hopes and dreams with something that had been waiting millions of years to hear them. The architects had preserved the power to heal a galaxy, but they needed human hearts to direct it. The pillar under Dr. Chen's hands blazed with light that could be seen from space. On the surface, the hostile world of Kepler, 442c, began to transform. The acid storm stopped. The crushing gravity gentled. The electromagnetic chaos organized itself into patterns of incredible beauty. The void entity that had been attacking the human ship, Endeavor, stopped in the middle of space. For the first time in millions of years, it remembered something other than hunger. The memory was faint, like an echo from a dream, but it was real. It remembered having a name. Below on Kepler, 442c, the chamber filled with light, so bright it should have blinded everyone inside. But the light did not hurt. It felt like coming home after a long journey. It felt like the first warm day of spring after a harsh winter. Dr. Sarah Chun could see everything, not just with her eyes, but with her heart and mind. She saw the galaxy as it really was, underneath all the darkness and fear. Every world where hope still lived glowed like a candle in the night. There were billions of them, scattered across the stars, waiting for someone to remind them they were not alone. Now I understand, she whispered. The architects never left. They just changed into something bigger. They became the connections between all living things that refused to give up. Around her, the other humans were experiencing their own revelations. Captain Santos could feel every human ship in space, every settlement, every explorer who had ever looked at the stars and wondered what was out there. They were all connected by invisible threads of hope and curiosity. Engineer Rodriguez felt every broken thing in the galaxy that could be fixed, every problem that had a solution if someone was brave enough to look for it. His hands tingled with the knowledge of how to repair not just machines, but hearts and dreams. Colonel Chun sensed every soldier, every protector, everyone who stood between danger and the people they loved. He understood that true strength was not about winning fights, but about never giving up on the idea that tomorrow could be better. Beth Morrison felt every seed that had ever been planted in hope, every garden that grew despite poor soil, every farmer who looked at barren ground and saw a possibility. Life wanted to flourish everywhere, if it just had a little help. In space, more void entities began to remember. The memories came slowly, painfully, like healing from a long illness. They remembered worlds where they had built cities of light. They remembered families and friends, and the simple joy of watching stars being born. They remembered hope. The leader of the Void Swarm, an ancient entity that consumed 1,000 star systems, found itself crying tears of pure energy. It had been so hungry for so long that it had forgotten what it was hungry for. Not energy, not destruction. It had been hungry for purpose, for connection, for the feeling that its existence mattered. On the human ship Endeavor, Captain Lisa Park watched in amazement as the attacking void entities began to change. Their dark, hungry forms were becoming something else, something beautiful. They were remembering how to be the beings they were before despair had consumed them. All ships, hold your fire, she commanded over the radio. I repeat, hold your fire. They are not attacking anymore. The transformation was spreading. From Kepler 442c, waves of healing energy pulsed outward at the speed of light. Every world they touched woke up a little more. Every species that felt the touch of hope began to remember what they were fighting for. In the chamber, Dr. Chen finally understood the full truth. This was never about us, she said, her voice filled with wonder. We were never supposed to save the galaxy alone. We were supposed to remind everyone else that they could save themselves. The architects have been gardeners, planting seeds of hope on millions of worlds. But gardens need tending. They need someone to water them, to pull the weeds, to help them grow. The architects have been looking for a species that could be gardeners like them. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy. They were not the smartest or the most advanced. But they had something that many others had lost. They had the stubborn refusal to accept that things could not get better. We are not conquerors, Captain Santos realized. We are not saviors. We are reminders. The light in the chamber began to settle into something softer, warmer. The ancient machines were no longer mysterious and alien. They felt familiar, like tools that had been waiting for the right hands to use them. Outside Kepler, 442c was transforming completely. The hostile Deathworld was becoming something unprecedented in galactic history. It was becoming a world that taught hope. The crushing gravity remained, but it no longer crushed. It strengthened. The storms still came, but they brought energy and life instead of destruction. The acid rain had become something that healed instead of harmed. The electromagnetic chaos had organized into patterns that carried messages of possibility to every world in range. In space, the transformation of the void swarm was complete. The entities that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia were remembering their true nature. They were not destroyers. They were gardeners like the architects, but they had lost their way. The leader of the swarm, who now remembered its name was Velnari, approached the human ship slowly. It projected thoughts instead of attacking with energy beams. We are sorry. The message said in every language the humans knew. We forgot who we were. We became our pain instead of our purpose. Thank you for helping us remember. Dr. Chen stepped away from the pillar, but she could still feel its presence in her mind. The connection would never be broken now. Humanity had become part of something larger, a network of hope that spanned the galaxy. What happens now? Asked Engineer Rodriguez. Now we go home, Dr. Chen replied. We go back to the council and tell them what we learned. We tell them that the war is over, but the real work is just beginning. Captain Santos understood. We help other species remember their own hope. Exactly. Every world that the void swarm damaged, we help rebuild. Every species that lost faith, we show them why existence is worth fighting for. We become teachers instead of warriors. The transformation was not instant or easy. There were worlds to heal, relationships to rebuild, trust to restore. The former void entities, now calling themselves the Renewed, had millions of years of damage to repair. But for the first time in galactic history, every species was working toward the same goal. Not conquest or survival, but growth. Not just surviving another day, but building something worth passing on to the next generation. Kepler 442c became the first Hope World, a place where any species could come to remember what they were capable of when they refused to give up. The hostile environment that had tested humanity now tested others, helping them find their own strength and determination. The whispers of hope were no longer whispers. They were songs carried by human voices and alien voices, and renewed voices all singing together. They were broadcast from every world, every ship, every heart that had learned to hope again. And in the depths of space, where new stars were being born, the architects finally allowed themselves to rest. Their long watch was over. The galaxy had found its gardeners. And in space, something impossible began to happen. The void entities attacking the human ships suddenly stopped moving. For the first time in millions of years, they heard something they had forgotten existed. They heard the whispers of hope, carried on human voices that refused to be silenced. The humans had taught everyone the most important lesson in the universe, that hope was not something you had, but something you did. It was not a feeling, but a choice. The choice to keep planting seeds even when the soil looked barren. The choice to keep building even when everything fell down. The choice to keep believing that tomorrow could be better than today. Nothing had happened like anyone expected, but everything had happened exactly as it should.